Okay, everyone, hello and welcome. We are here because people keep asking us what we are doing during this lockdown. Normally, the team gets together and chats in the conference room about all the things we're doing, and we end up moving from what we're supposed to be talking about to things that are fun or things that we've learned. We can't do that, but now we are doing it online, and we figured now is as good a time as any to bring other people into the conversation. So we are basically inviting you into our little team conversations. We're going to talk about cars. We're going to talk very casually. One of the things that got this all started was the fact that we're kind of surprised at which cars are getting interest right now. In a time where people are worrying about car sales and what to do and so on, there are cars that are moving. There are people that are buying cars. And it's interesting because they're not necessarily the cars you would think. People are taking chances with brands that they're not familiar with. People are making intelligent choices, and they're going across both lines. They're going from people who have cars and need another one, and they're going from people who do not have cars yet and are trying to buy something. Because there is basically no other way other than a motorcycle for them to get around. And especially if this is what ends up as your only mode of transportation, because we have no idea what the government's going to do.
Sorry. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Then this is the viable option. So with us today is most of the C team. We've got Nix, we've got Paolo, we've got Chris, we've got Gerard, and you've got me. These are the guys that drive the cars, test the cars, run the cars, and we're going to ask them questions about all these things that are suddenly popping up on our radar far more than we expected. Nix. Okay.
Yeah. So like as individuals, we've been getting questions from like different readers, different friends, family on like about cars that we didn't expect. So these are like the top 5 cars that people have been asking us about. And one of them was actually the Kia Seltos. And was it Paulo last year? Was it this year?
No, earlier this year. That was our first drive.
Yeah, okay. So earlier this year, like before this whole pandemic thing, we actually drove the Kia Seltos to Baler. And like among all the cars that we've drove this year, Paulo has been very interested in this Kia Seltos. So just to dive in, Paulo, like what makes you so interested in the Kia Seltos?
Just to begin, the very first thing I noticed about the car was this very eye-catching and youthful all-around design. So it's really meant for like a younger consumer. If you look at the two-tone design and the floating roof design, but more than the exterior design, I actually like the connectivity. You know how connectivity is everything these days.
Yeah.
Like well, I guess for younger people.
I disagree, but okay.
And then, I mean, it's not everything. It might not be everything, but it's become a huge deal for many consumers these days. For example, people look at the infotainment system. Does it have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto?
Yeah.
And of course, the Seltos has this feature. Aside from that, one of my favorite things about it was it has the ability to connect multiple Bluetooth devices.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember that.
So, like, I mean, I guess for like the purists, the car guys, like they won't really care about that. But for me, I like that feature because, for example, next when we were driving to Baler, both our phones were connected.
Yeah, we were switching playlists.
Yeah, I was the one driving. But then when you wanted to play a song, you could easily change, right? It also had all the safety and convenience features you would want in that price point.
Yeah.
See, Chris and I just yesterday in discussing this, he and I were on the phone talking, and then all of a sudden the phone cut out, and I thought it died. What happened was my wife came home, and the car switched to her car. The phone switched to her car. So she was getting a conversation with Chris, apparently. And this has happened if we're driving home and all of a sudden my music just disappears and goes into my wife's car or something. So I'm not a huge fan of this multiple connectivity thing. I think
it makes it convenient because you're able to like if there are 2 people in the car, you can switch between the devices.
No, I agree with that. It's just, it has its own. Anyway, I guess my point is that whereas we are people who have driven cars that had absolutely no connectivity whatsoever, you guys are all, this is a bigger part of your life, and I agree with it. So,
yeah.
But other than that, Paulo, tell us about
like how it drove.
How did it drive?
Yeah, of course. it has a very comfortable drive. Like the steering might be a little light for some, but I can see it very. I see it as more of like an urban dweller. So because it's
Yeah.
not as a subcompact crossover, it's not too big, not too small. So it's a bit bigger than the EcoSport. So some people who are like probably like new families would want something a bit bigger than the EcoSport. Uh, but then when we started driving on the highway, it was able to pull, like
Yeah.
uh, it had a comfortable, but there was some sense of um, athleticism to it. It was also fun to drive, especially in the twisties
Yeah,
when
we
we were
actually
going to
enjoyed
Baler.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
actually
yeah,
enjoyed that.
It's
yeah.
a competent out of town car. It's a competent out of town vehicle. It's not.
Yes.
It's
It
not
is. It is. It is.
fine.
So it can carry enough luggage, enough
Yeah.
people. Because
There were three of us and
yeah,
like our luggage.
yeah. How about you next? Like when you were driving it to Balera, what did you think about it?
What I like it's very like first and foremost, I think me and Sir Carl in this realm, we first and foremost, what's important to us is mechanically sound cars. And it fits that. Like it's mechanically sound. But it's beyond that that makes it impressive and apparently has caught your eye. Na na parang with all the connectivity, with the convenience, with the back seats able to recline more. It was a good all arounder, and I can see why young people, like even like my group of friends, are getting the Seltos. Yeah. So, but then you know what's interesting though, like if you look at the Seltos, body shape wise, it looks similar also to the SsangYong Tivoli. And people have
Hmm.
been asking about you, Sir Car, right? They've been asking about the Tivoli, like
Yeah, and that kind of surprised me because it's been around for a while. But I guess at this time, when all these people are suddenly, you have all these pretty good deals, and we've said this before. We've said that, people are asking us, should I buy a car now? And I said, well, that's a personal decision based on what you think you can handle and so on. But understand that these cars aren't being sold and moved and pushed because they're bad cars. They're actually all good cars. They just have to move so that they can get other cars in, and they have to keep things afloat. So you actually have, it's not like you're having a good deal on a bad car. You're having good deals on good cars. And the one that surprised me in this case, I'm getting a lot of questions about the Coolray, and perfectly legit. And Chris and I have differing opinions on that, but we'll talk about that later. But for the Tivoli, this guy who I've known for decades, and he's buying another car in that range, and he's very, very careful with his money, and that's what he's looking at. And it's interesting because it's the one of the older ones in the group.
yeah,
SsangYong, technically,
2016.
yeah, and SsangYong has actually gotten a track record that's longer than some of these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's a bit long in the tooth. Having said that, if this is a 2016 launched car, a lot of people like getting the end of model life cars because they're all sorted out. Any issues that the car had,
Yes, that's true.
so it's a very intelligent decision from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, Having said that, I had to go and say, okay, which of you guys have driven the Tivoli? So who
And
drove it?
actually, Chris, I think he
Yeah.
had a lot of airtime with that car, and I
Yeah.
think most of the
Okay, why
models.
do you have airtime with the car? I'm getting worried.
Oh, sorry. Well,
Yes,
it's
you could have worded that
pilot,
better.
like the pilot, airtime, flight time,
Wheel time. Time behind the wheel.
Real time, real
Yeah.
time.
wheel
But
time, wheel time.
SsangYong is one of the brands that has really impressed me. I mean, they're a true underdog. With the entire model range, actually, even the Muso pickups, the Muso Grand was impressive. And the Tivoli and the Tivoli XLT, the longer wheelbase version, they're some of my personal favorites in the affordable range, because you get a lot of car for what you pay. They handle great. They're very roomy, very spacious. Build quality is okay. SsangYong is actually SsangYong is actually one of the top Korean brands in
Yeah.
Korea.
Let me
It's
share
just
some
it,
photos while we're at it. Let me share
it's a
some
shame
photos.
that they haven't received the same amount of recognition here. Although I I could say the only reason for that is their lack of dealerships.
Yeah, I think it's a
Um,
more of a dealership thing, especially
yeah.
for us South boys. But yeah, like look at this interior. Like let's start off with this. Did everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually a good looking interior, and it's followed through with the rest of their vehicles.
How
Yeah.
does it feel? How is it tactile wise? How does it feel?
They're great to drive. You mean the interior?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
Yeah. The
looks nice.
materials used are the materials used aren't very premium, but they're good enough for the price range. We're talking about 1.1 to 1.2 million. So considering that, which is the price that you'll find a lot of entry-level compact carriers like the BRV or the Ertiga, if we're talking about cars in that price range, the Tivoli and the XLV, they actually overperform in terms of interior build quality and the materials used, and also driving feel. So I think they deserve more recognition than what they're getting,
yeah.
especially the Rexton. I mean, if
Oh
we're talking about
yeah,
SsangYong,
that
the
was a good.
Rexton was very, very impressive.
It was like
Very, very
it was like
impressive.
targeting a market, but in a different style, in a different angle. That's what impressed us with the Rexton.
The Rexton is arguably the best seven-seater diesel SUV in the market now. I say arguably because there's a lot of competition in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
arena and a lot of other good offerings too. But the Rexton is definitely up there.
Yeah, because like I think what makes it stand out from the rest is the comfiness of it, of driving and riding it.
Yeah, and also the materials. You know, this
Yeah,
stitching on the leather. Um,
Okay, let's be
like you
clear.
said, the ride is great.
You're talking about the Rexton right now,
yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But
Sorry, I
represent,
jumped to the Rexton
yeah,
just to
yeah. But
show.
the
Yeah,
s-
yeah.
the SsangYong brand as a whole.
So how does that, if I mean, if they pay that much attention to that level vehicle, how does that translate down to something like the Tivoli? I mean, what do you're not going to get leather, I don't think, right? But do, is the level of quality similar? I mean,
Yeah,
is it nicely fit and finished?
The I think the diesel 1.6 premium Tivoli does come with
with
all the bells
leather.
and whistles,
It
Yeah,
does.
and it comes in at 1.18, which is really a good deal for the car that you're getting.
So that's
yeah.
1.18
Um,
diesel sport with a leather interior.
That's leather already though, if I'm not
oh,
mistaken.
sorry, sorry. The diesel sport is 1.18. The
It,
diesel premium
Is one.
is
298.
1.29.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So you can. I mean, so basically, what you're saying is, as much as you like their larger cars, you think that they've taken uh, what they've learned, and it does translate down to the lower cars, less expensive.
Absolutely, yeah. I
Actually, I think
really
it's
enjoyed
vice
my time with the
versa.
Tivoli.
I think it's
No,
vice versa because the Tivoli was before the Rexton. So it's when like for if I'm not mistaken, the Tivoli was like a refresh rebranding of SsangYong. So it was from the Tivoli that the Rexton got like lessons from the Tivoli. That's why it's so like they're similar with the Rexton being better.
Well, SsangYong has always been an SUV utility focused brand, right?
Yeah.
What's
I
interesting is they got the Rexton, and that's what they used as a jumping platform for the Muso. Instead of what's usually done, where you start with the pickup platform and then
Mhm.
apply it to the SUV, they did the opposite here. They started with the SUV and applied
Yeah.
that platform to their
That's
pickups.
why pala the Muso was also comfy for
Yeah,
what it
that's
is.
interesting.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's a
interesting.
really interesting way to do it. Huh? I
Yeah.
mean, but it's not a crossover,
No.
right?
No, no,
Uh,
It's
no.
not. It's a ladder frame.
the ladder frame
Wow.
SUV.
But
So,
done well. Done well.
so you would expect this from crossovers, but doing it as an SUV with a ladder frame is a it's an interesting choice. It's actually a pretty intelligent thing to do, given
And
what.
that's why they're so comfortable. Actually, that's why the Rexton is so comfortable, because they focused on making a comfortable ladder frame SUV, and it translates to their pickups being comfortable too. The
That's true.
Muso, the smaller Muso, is one of the most comfortable pickups in the market right now, bar none. I mean,
Yeah. So true.
um,
We tested it.
of course,
Right.
there are compromises to be paid. It's more of a lifestyle pickup. It's not really suited for heavy duty farm work. I mean, the Grand Muso is up to that task, but the smaller Muso is more of a lifestyle pickup, and
Yeah.
it even has a smaller bed to reflect that.
Yeah.
Well, which is the way they're going. I mean, we were just having this discussion that not that many pickups have limited slip differentials anymore. So it's a
Yeah.
whole. But yeah, okay. So we were talking about these two cars, and the other car that we were discussing, and this is when they launched one of these cars with, and the brand we're talking about is Suzuki. When they launched their cars, and we're generally very big fans of Suzuki. Because they just make these nice little quirky cars that everybody loves. And people have this massive brand loyalty to that brand. And the president of Suzuki actually said, people forget, this is really all we do. You know, we do not make anything else other than small vehicles. So we really concentrate, and they really do. And the latest one is again, something I haven't driven yet, but you guys have driven it, right?
Chris has.
Chris has. I was supposed to get it, but this pandemic happened.
Okay, that's your fault. Okay, Chris,
Yes.
tell us about the S-Presso.
Yeah, K cars have always made sense to the Philippines, at least in my point of view. I honestly don't know why there aren't more K cars here. I think
Yeah, right?
I think it's because, well, Filipinos are very family centric and they want big cars to carry the whole family and they want space. But considering our driving environment and traffic conditions, K cars actually make a lot of sense as personal vehicles. Which is why the S-Presso was a nice breath of fresh air. I'm actually not sure how to classify it. I mean,
it's hard to classify.
Suzuki's website calls it a hatchback. If you agree with that, and I don't personally agree with that. It's not exactly a micro SUV either. And it's
a K car.
yeah, it's a K car. I mean,
Yeah.
and for what it is at 518,000, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. Of course, there are certain compromises. You have the 90s inspired roll-up windows, which I haven't seen in a brand new car in a while.
Up. Now people will understand why they call it rolling up the window.
And you have the manual side mirror adjustment knobs.
Look, if you're so close, you can reach across, right?
Oh yeah.
Having the knobs is a big deal, huh?
Yeah.
You have to. You have. Well,
but for me, actually, I prefer that because it's less it's less things to worry about in the future.
Yeah. A lot of people will appreciate that fact that people are worried that the more electronic cars get or the more technical they get, it just means more things to break down and replace down the line, right? So the fact that the Suzuki S-Presso is so bare and yet it does so well at the things that it does. And Suzuki has a great product. They included a 7-inch touchscreen, so it's not completely 90s.
But does it have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay?
No Android Auto, no Apple CarPlay. But it does have the basic Bluetooth
manufacturers,
functionality.
Please, standard Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, please.
But as it's extremely practical because what other cars in the market are in the 500,000 peso range that offer the same utility? You could argue there's the Wigo, of course, Toyota Wigo.
I know, but it's already at 700, right?
The top.
Is it? No.
Yeah,
Wigo,
it starts pretty expensive compared to the 518,
No, the base model Wigo is 568. So
that's 50K more for a smaller car.
Well, for that,
50K more. That's 10% more.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah.
500,000 to 550 is the 10% increase.
So
but you know what?
S-Presso,
actually, among us, like Gerard's actually the biggest fan of the S-Presso. So I wanted to ask him, like, what allures you to the S-Presso?
I think the whole look itself. Yes, it's tiny and but it reminds me of, at the risk of revealing my age, it reminds me of the 80s Suzuki Beaver. That was a very tiny but very capable off-road Suzuki. Although this one, of course, it's not an off-road vehicle, but it does fit in with the whole Suzuki microcar vibe. And it does offer a lot. Although, as we were saying, what competition can we pit it against? It would probably be, well, loaded second-hand vehicles like the first gen Fortuner. But then again, you don't have the security of a warranty after sales service.
Can you get a
And
first gen Fortuner for 500,000 these days?
Some like if
More
you're
than-
lucky,
I
if
think
you're
it's
lucky
still
to
above.
shotgun,
Yeah.
you can get a 4x2 gasoline Fortuner first gen if you can parang shotgun it na rush sale.
yeah,
I've
but
seen
then again,
two
you're
na
not
that
sure of
price.
the quality of that.
Yun lang.
Yeah. So
Diba?
this
And
one,
then,
it really,
and then you do. I mean, Suzuki does have a reputation for. I mean, I've heard parts distributors say, "Dude, we just don't sell parts for the car because no one buys them because they just run." You know, so they do have a brand loyalty that's deserved.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an. I mean, actually, I've always liked. I mean, Suzuki's are quirky, and you got to understand what you're getting. For example, I love the design of the APV, right? I think it's brilliant. It's surprisingly large inside. It's extremely utilitarian. It's very fun. But you got to understand you're getting this little car, and that you're not worried about being tipping over in the wind or something. But look at all their new cars, right?
The
Everyone
box,
loves
the APV. I mean, but it's cute. It's a cute box.
no, they do what they've chosen to do something, and they're doing it their way, and they believe in that way, and
Mhm.
people understand it.
But Chris, I have a big question before we go to the next car. How did it drive? Like since none of us drove it, for you, how did the car drive? That's what
Well,
I'm really curious about.
being a small car, it comes with small car characteristics. I love, first of all, I love the turning radius. I think it has a 4.8 meter turning radius, which
That's
means
short, huh? That's like a
it's like,
4.8. That's short. Like
that makes short work of any U-turn you can throw at it. I mean, so that's a great thing. But being a small car, I mean, on the highway, it is, and it has a high center of gravity, so it is susceptible to crosswinds. I mean, you will feel that, and you'll find yourself correcting a lot on the highway.
okay.
But these are things that you'll expect from a small car. You know?
Yeah.
On the plus side,
Like
that tall center of gravity means you have a little bit more room for ground clearance. It has 180 millimeters worth of ground clearance, which is almost as high as some of the MPVs that you have. Um, but it's absolutely fun to drive. Of course, it has its quirks. Shifting is great. The shifter is great. The steering is not as precise as I would have wanted it to be.
But it's
I'm
yeah.
nitpicking at this point.
Yeah. But it's not sloppy. Like
No, it's not sloppy.
Okay,
It's not
yeah.
sloppy, and the short size just makes up for it completely. Like you won't be complaining because you
Okay,
can
that's
just
good.
squeeze in anywhere. You can. I mean, it's you won't be scared if you're gonna hit stuff in your blind spot because there barely are any blind spots. It's just that small.
That's nice to
Um,
hear.
doesn't even need a rear view camera. It does have sensors though, so that's a good.
Well, that's a plus. That's a
Uh,
plus.
I think it does. I'm not
Oh.
sure. Maybe it doesn't. Sorry.
Suzuki, give us a ring. Give us a ring, Suzuki.
I may have gotten that wrong.
Yeah. Okay, but speaking of like sensors, like actually one of the cars that kind of blew up the scene of like the other cars, like the lesser known choices, was actually the MGZS. It's like all of a sudden you see them around everywhere. Like they caught that magic first, of like the affordable car. And I think like who got a lot of real time for that is Chris, and Paulo drove the RS, I think.
The
The RS.
RX. I
Yeah.
haven't driven
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ZS, yeah.
But at least we can talk like about like the brand as a whole and then the
But like
car.
the first thing I've noticed about the MGZS is how the price of a compact crossover, it's the same as a Vios, as a
Yeah,
mid-range Vios. That's what's interesting about it, right? And then
yeah.
you get all these features, the infotainment, like the safety features. So that was really surprising. I think that's still one of its best selling points.
Yes. Because it starts if you're screaming at the bottom, it starts at 880 na for that size of an SUV. And then you just add like 180,000 more. So still below a million. You like what you said, you have all those things put together. It's incredible.
You know what I found interesting about the MG was the people who were asking about it. There were, I mean, MG is a classic brand. It may not be, it might be detached from what it was before in some ways, arguably. But it was car guys who were asking about it. People who really know their stuff were saying, "What do you think about this car?" When someone asks us that question, it usually means they've already kind of made a decision and they've narrowed it down. And they're trying, they're either getting us to support their decision or not. And the MG was getting some very good car guy types were asking me about the MG. Now, but it's odd because that's not exactly the market that this car is going to, right? And this is an inexpensive car. It's just coming in. What do you guys feel? Do you feel that it taps a heritage that you may well not know about? Do you feel it's just a new brand like any other brand? What do you think?
I think it has the MG, as you said, the MG name has heritage from the MGs of the 50s and 60s. Although, of course, nowadays it's
Some
not that.
people don't know that heritage when they buy it. They just like when they buy it, it's like, oh, it's MG, but they don't know about like the Morris Garage
Roadster.
heritage.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
the car guys would know that, but yeah, for the ordinary buyer,
Yeah.
they just think of the price for, as you said, they can get an SUV for the price of a Vios or a City.
But does the general buyer? Do you think the general buyer knows about that heritage at all?
From my personal experience, maybe around 3 or 4 people who are not really car guys have asked me. They would ask, "Isn't MG a British car brand?
Well,
An
yeah.
old British car brand?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." Like I was surprised they knew about it. So, I don't have the data for it. I don't have like specific data, but
Anecdotal
there
lang.
have been some
Anecdotal.
people who've asked me, like who are familiar with the old MG brand.
Okay,
So
so
they,
in that case, because what we're seeing with a lot of these cars is that basically to survive, a lot of these companies had to get bought out by Asian conglomerates, and that's what they've done. In this case, we as car guys that know the heritage of MG might look at it in a different way. But for a new buyer who comes in, what they see is, oh, this is a British brand.
Shiny
Maybe,
car.
that's what they think.
maybe that's what helps it. Maybe that's what gives it. I mean, from a business point of view, then it looks like it's doing what they wanted it to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And actually, the one who has the most wheel time, not air time, wheel time with the MGZS is Chris.
Well, I had the ZS a long time ago. I had it for a while when it was still new to the
Yeah.
market, and everyone was going crazy because it was an SUV for Vios prices, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that alone was enough to attract people to it. It had leather seats, it had a sunroof, all of these premium features for an 800,000 peso price tag. And so people were naturally asking, is this too good to be true, or is this the real deal, or what's going on? And I was actually really impressed because it is a very premium feeling interior. It looks good from the outside, nothing too crazy on the styling.
Let me get photos of that. Let me get
Oh,
photos of
right.
that.
Photos.
Yes, let me get photos.
But that was okay. So you're talking about this that you drove a while back, right?
Here we go.
Yeah.
This is the one when we drove it.
Oh yeah,
I was
Also, first
impressed.
time, right? This is
Yeah.
the first time. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you're
yeah,
talking
as
about
you
the
can see,
interior,
styling
right?
is actually the
Styling.
styling is actually very, very classic. It's very timeless. It's not the kind of styling that will go out of date very quickly, and I think that draws a lot of people to it.
And then let's go to the interior. Dude,
And
look at that
inside, you
interior.
see,
Boom.
you got the leather, you've got the touchscreen, you've got a very legible instrument cluster. The steering wheel feels great, and you've got audio controls. I mean, it's really impressive for the price. And for a while, I was wondering how they were doing this also. Yeah, you even got the white stitching. Look at the details like that. White stitching in the leather seats. Those are things that you find on more premium cars at more premium prices too.
Yeah.
Does it feel particularly British to you, or just global?
No, it
Global.
feels very global.
That's not necessarily a bad. That's not necessarily.
That's not a bad thing.
Remember
Not
that
a bad thing at all.
British were known for
Everyone's like in trying to achieve the same goal. Everyone's like starting to line up together. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
The other car that kind of blew us away in a lot of ways, and the brand was actually Geely or whichever way.
Yeah. I was correct. I was corrected by the Geely guys. So we did a review on the Geely Ascara. I was pronouncing it as Geely, right?
Okay.
So like after making the video and then I showed it to them before we aired it, they're like, "Nix, we love the video. There's just one problem." I'm like, "What is it? I can fix it." And then they go, "It's actually pronounced G Lee."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Okay, I can't fix that."
No. Now you know better. Okay. But we all. I mean, it's not just this brand. I mean, people pronounce different brands in different ways. If anyone remembers how to pronounce Hyundai, whatever, it was a.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point of this all is that we're looking at all these relatively new car brands, and then you've got, if the example is MG, which is now owned by a basically non-British conglomerate.
Yeah.
Got Geely. Now Geely, this Geely to me is the best example of why you cannot lump all these cars together just because they come from one country or another country. I was impressed with Geely because of the way I saw their corporate culture and the way they were moving forward in terms of their group and their corporation. They have a very different feel from any other cars built in basically China. It's completely different. And there are historical reasons for that. There are geographic reasons for that. There are funding reasons for that. It's not a state-funded corporation. But the end result was this car, which they launched with, which was the Coolray, kind of blew everybody away. I've had hour-long conversations with people who were standing in front of me with their brand new Mazda, for example, talking about buying a Coolray. And they were blown away. The car has just come into the market in a surprising way. It surprised me, and I was already a big fan of the car because I had driven it, I had tested it. I was blown away by the level of quality. And it wasn't necessarily the technical stuff. It was the attention to detail they put on interiors. I mean, we've seen cars that look great on the outside and the interiors look like cabinets. I mean,
let's show people like what we're talking about. Like the interior. So that's Chris, by the way. He's driving the Geely Coolray. The Geely.
Get
Good
it
stuff.
right.
Get it stuff.
We're gonna tattoo next.
What?
Nothing. Never mind.
Okay, sorry. But okay, so like what I've been told, like some people say if you change the badging, people might even be more attracted to it. Like if you're a badge you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know.
But then they're trying to detract from what is in reality a strength.
Yeah.
I mean, Geely is arguably, I mean, because of how they had to grow. I mean, it's not like when you started Toyota or Mercedes or whatever, you were looking at your own market.
Yeah.
You guys from day one already had to look at the global market, and they did it in a very, very different way. They did not have government support. They had a very entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, this car comes from a part of China where you have DJI, you have Jack Ma, you've got all these entrepreneurs. So it's a very, very different feel. And I asked all the expats I met there, and they were like, no, it's a different world in this company. So now you have this car.
Look at that interior.
I would initially say, and believe me, the whole Coolray name was confusing to everybody. And yet,
at first, but now it's like it's accepted. It's like it's the Coolray.
You don't
a household name.
Yeah.
They're getting a great deal. They're getting a great car, not just a great deal.
Yeah, look at that interior. So, and like for me, what's fascinating about the Coolray is like the level, like if you get especially the top tier one, which is like their best seller, the level of tech you get. Look, you have a 3D camera system that actually works really well.
You know, we actually drove that thing blindfolded. That's how good it is.
Yeah, that's how good it is.
Park assist, right?
And I mean, like, look at that interior. It's like if you're not impressed with that interior, I don't know what will impress you.
Well, okay, the thing here is you can look at it and you can be impressed without having touched it because you don't know what it feels like. It feels as good as it looks. They really spend a lot of attention. And then what I found really interesting at the time, which was what we couldn't talk about, which became the Ascara, and that if they take that level of quality and then they put it into what is effectively a less expensive people carrier, that's a market changer. That's what this car is. And now the other thing to remember is that this is the company that owns other car brands, okay? And they are the savior of other car brands. And they own car brands we don't even know about. You know, they go racing, they do all these things. So it is a global company, and we're getting the benefits of that. And it's so we can't just combine all these companies. Like we can't call them underdogs or this or that or whatever, because they're all different, just like different Japanese cars are.
Yeah. And with the way they share tech nowadays, it's hard to say underdog when they're spread out.
I think the Volvo DNA is very strong in the Coolray.
It's very evident.
A lot.
And it's really funny because there are people saying, "Was that the Volvo? Is that the is that the Volvo?"
And then it turns out, it's the Geely.
No, but
Geely.
This company is building the world's largest transmission production facility ever. You know, so they're going to be supplying everybody with transmissions. And so they really are. It's not a case of they're just taking a badge and moving it over. Will outperform Volvo. I'm positive, no question. So they're actually, what they're doing is what entrepreneurs do well, which is take the best of certain things and incorporate them. They're not just rebadging.
Yeah,
so
true.
I think it's great.
Exciting times. But yeah, so that's basically like the top 5 cars that that people have been asking us about. So like, just to wrap this all up, Sir Carl, like, you have anything you want to say, like to wrap up like this whole talk?
Well, okay, this is something we should have done for quite a while, and we wanted to do. And people who show up in our office at the right time, or who see it back, or if we're sitting in the paddock while we're trying to decide if we can survive without traction control. Those are the conversations that are great. And this is what we're trying to get people to understand. And they learn a lot. And we're going to be bringing more people into this. And we're going to be doing this in a way where people can ask us the questions as we go. We are taking baby steps. We've always been very happy to include people, but at the same time, it's just logistically hard. Now it's easier. So this is just the first step. I have to say that just like when I take any class with anybody, when we test a car, I learn something. I learned a lot of new things from this conversation alone. And that's what we want to bring to people. We want to remind people that there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to know. We want to help you make decisions about buying your car. We want to help you enjoy your car. We're going to talk about any number of things like Chris's new child, for example, or how Paul gets his hair done correctly, or things like that.
Or Nick's with your hair.
Or Nick, well, Nick, no, Nick's, we're going to talk about your pronunciation. But anyway, no, we want to do this more often. We just think it's fun. We honestly do it anyway. We have these conversations.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for doing this. I know I've been having to push you to try this. It's not easy for any of us, but all we're doing is having fun, having the same conversations we've had.
Just giving it to you guys this time.
Yep.
And if anyone out there wants us to talk about a certain topic, just drop us a line.
Drop us a comment.
Message.
Down below.
Comment.
That's
we'll
true.
try not to mess it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, guys, our time is up. Thank you so much. So stay healthy, stay safe, and good day to everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.